Hey, everybody, welcome to the Ronline Report. Today's guest recently won the Texas Pro Classic Physique title after 3 years away from competition. Please welcome from Arizona, Robert Timms. Hey, Robert.
Thank you.
I have to start off with an apology. I love apologizing because I love being surprised pleasantly when people I wasn't expecting much or anything from. So I was doing a preview of the Texas Pro with Giles Thomas for MD. I think the Monday before that show, and I had run through, we talked about Logan, we talked about Steve Lorius, and I was about to wrap it up and move to the next division. Giles said, hang on, Ron, can I mention one other guy? I'm like, who? Because I looked at the list and I didn't see anybody else. And I completely went past your name, even though I recognize it. He goes, Robert Timms. I go, yeah, Robert, I remember him from a few years ago, but comebacks don't usually go well in this sport. I've seen 90% of people come back and it's like, you should have just stayed retired. But my goodness, wow, you came back and you looked not only as good as before, you looked much better than I remember you from before. You beat out Logan by 1 point. Logan put all his eggs in one basket. Everyone was expecting him to win that show. Or Steve Lorius, he was another heavy favorite going into that show. You were not a heavy favorite, but man, you knocked it out of the park. Best surprise of the classic division I've seen this year. Yeah. Let's tell people about
that.
Before we get into your early history, how you got into it, I want to remind you all out there, because I know a lot of the fans are newer to it. You were one of the very early stars of the Classic Physique division. You turned pro in 2016 when it started at Junior USA. So you're one of the very first pros.
I'm the first.
You were the first pro.
Yes.
Wow. So it was you and Dana Lynn Bailey. Right?
So in Classic?
Oh, no, Classic. She was women's physique. Oh, it was a different year. Why I got Dana Lynn Bailey on the mind. Wow, you were the first Classic pro.
Me and Dennis James, he was my mentor at the time and coach. And we did my first NPC show was the Arnold.
Arnold.
So prior to the Arnold, I did two shows in Korea when I was stationed in Korea. I did 2 bodybuilding shows on base, and then I did a Musclemania show, and I won both of those shows.
Wow. Yeah. I neglected to tell because everyone's like, what station? You're actually a staff sergeant in the United States Air Force, everybody. We're going to get to that eventually, but thank you for your service, but we'll get to that.
Absolutely. So when I was stationed in Korea, I did my first 2 shows a week apart, and I won both of those shows. I won first in overall in my first one, and then in Musclemania, I won first, and I didn't win the overall. Then I came stationed in Arizona, and I did 2 shows as well. I did the base show, which I won first in overall, which qualified me for the INBA show as well. And I got my pro card in INBA because I won first in overall there. I went to the Olympia 2014, my first time ever experiencing that. I went with a friend from Arizona, and he knew Dennis. And he said, I'm gonna introduce you to my friend Dennis. I didn't know any professional bodybuilders. I didn't know anybody, but this is one of Dennis's just regular friends,
Yep.
So we go to the Olympia. He introduced me to all the pros and everybody, and then he introduced me to Dennis. And Dennis looks at me. He's like, "What do you do?" And I said, "I want to be a bodybuilder." He's like, "Okay." So we talked about it. And he said, "Well, let's get you in a physique show." And I said, "Okay." So I did my first physique show, which was the Arnold. We prepped for it. And this is my first NPC show. We prepped for it. It was I think it was 31 guys, something like that. I got 8th in the show. And then after that, it was to the point where they said my back was too big for physique. And even DJ told me, he's like, when you go on the stage, do not open your back. If you open your back, it's terrible. It's going to be bad. Just keep your back. So I actually was on stage with my back closed.
Wow.
And so we get off stage, and that was the beginning of 2015. That was 2015.
Yeah.
Then they announced the Classic Physique division a couple months later.
Yeah.
When they announced the Classic Physique division, that's when Dennis called me back. And Dennis called me and said, "Hey, you're going to do the very first one," which was in Vegas, I believe. It was the Legends Classic.
Yeah.
And so he's like, "You doing the show?" I said, "Okay." So we got prepped for it, ready for it, won first and overall there. After
So
that, I went straight to
you
that.
were the very first men's physique, men's
Men's
classic physique winner in
Yes.
the NPC. Wow.
Yes.
And then you won the Junior USA. Were you the first?
I went first. I went first in overall there, and I went first in overall at Junior USA's. Then we did my first pro show, which was the San Antonio Pro, which was maybe 4 months later. Or the San Antonio Pro.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, it's okay.
Yeah, which was San Antonio Pro. I won the San Antonio Pro, and then I qualified for the Olympia my first year.
Yeah.
And did the 2016 Olympia.
Yeah.
And I took 6th place. I won the block, went back to the Ferrigno Legacy.
Yep.
Right after that, 2016, and I won that show. And then I did the Olympia again, and my placing dropped to 14. And then I went back again to the Ferrigno, won that again.
Yep.
Then went back to the Olympia and dropped to, I think, 16th, tied for 16th.
Yeah, and you were in the Arnold,
but I think
too, right?
No, I didn't do the Arnold. Or I did do the Arnold. I did do the Arnold.
Yeah.
I did do the Arnold. That's right. I did. I totally forgot about that. But the thing was, for me, with me, it was more so I was just too small. So, I would come in shape, but me being in shape was just too small. I didn't have enough muscle tissue on me. And so, and that's where the hiatus came from, that 3-year hiatus, because I knew I had to take time off to actually grow and not do the whole bulking cutting, cycle. I had to just do a whole straight through bulk and just stay big and hold the weight, and so I could put that tissue on.
So you won. I mean, you said you were small, but you won 3 pro shows at that size. You were top 6 in the Olympia. So
right.
you just won. I asked you what you weighed at the show, 240, and you're 6'1". What were you weighing back in 2016?
Well, 2018, my last Olympia, I weighed 218, 219.
Okay.
My cap was 235 at the time.
Wow.
But they just upped the cap to 240, I believe, last year.
Right. So,
and at first I didn't even know that. And one of the judges was like, "No, your cap is higher now." And I was like, I didn't even know. So we came in as high as we could at the time, and we saw how much tissue I had put on. So I was 267. I had got to 267.
Wow.
In the off season.
So when you turned pro and you did your first couple pro shows in 2016, was it still around the same, like a little under 220, around 218?
Oh yeah. Probably. Wow. I mean, I was probably 198 at my first physique show.
Wow. Oh, you're talking about men's physique with the board.
When I did the Arnold. Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay, but when you turned pro in 2016,
classic, I was probably maybe 210.
Okay. So, man, you put on 30 pounds of lean muscle tissue.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, it looked fantastic. I mean,
thank you. I appreciate it.
Poor Logan. I mean, I love Logan. I was so bummed.
No, Logan, listen. I'm not gonna lie. Like, Logan is a legit class act. Like, I like Logan because I like the way he's really a competitor.
Yeah.
Right. He's so competitive, and he has this drive in his eye, like this real hardcore drive. And I can appreciate it. I can admire him for it.
Yeah. Right. There can only be one winner. So let's go back in time here. So you were your athletic background, you were a very dedicated martial artist from age of 8 on. You were black belt in Shotokan.
Yep.
Interestingly, that's the same style that George Peterson III has his black belt in Shotokan.
Okay.
Yeah. He's also got the big giant back. Coincidence? I don't know. You also went into boxing and kickboxing.
I did.
And then out of high school, you went into the United States Air Force. And quick question though, have they been supportive of you? Because Dave Henry, the 212, 202, and 212 champ, for many years when we worked together on articles, he never even wanted to say what branch he was in. He would just say he worked for the Department of Defense, because I don't think they were very supportive in giving him like the time off he wanted and things like that.
That's the difference, right? That's an individual based type thing, right? So for, I believe it goes down to how you do, how good you are with your command and whatnot, So with me, like, I make sure that everything has to be taken care of. You don't look for special treatment, right? So as long as you don't look for special treatment, you're fine. As long as you do whatever you're like, I do everything that everybody else does. I don't get any breaks. I don't get, oh, you're bulking. Oh, you don't have to worry about PT test. No, I do my PT test. I do everything that everybody. Yeah, for sure, absolutely. I was a unit fitness program manager, so I made sure that I had to, my fitness had to be up on par. And that's where it boils down to. Like when you start to look for special treatment, I don't know, maybe it's different. I don't know. I don't know who his command was. I don't know,
Right.
but I know for me, I just make sure I do everything I'm supposed to do. And I even go above and beyond. I make sure I take care of take care of people if I'm supposed to, that's where that goes, and they will be supportive of you. It's never, now granted, you make sacrifices, right?
Yeah.
So for instance, I was supposed to do there was a show in May I was supposed to compete in, but I couldn't because I had to go to tech school. So I was like, military tech school takes precedence, right? So you gotta do what you gotta do, and you make those sacrifices. And I don't mind making them. It's one of those things that I'm privileged to be able to do what I do. And that's just that's just one of my other jobs, right? So I also work at Intel, right? And that's my full-time job, right? So again, it's a team thing. And so for me, I don't like stressing my team because these guys depend on me just like I depend on them.
Yeah.
When I'm gone, it puts more stress on them. So it's more so like you want to make sure you're not getting all the love and you're not giving any love.
Gotcha.
Right.
Okay, that makes sense. So let's see, you were stationed, the first place you were stationed was Italy. And according to something I read, you played semi-pro football over there?
Yes. True? So I played with the Grifoni team. We were a base team, but we played civilian teams. Okay. And and that's where that came from.
Okay. And I guess also this is where you're a cancer survivor, and I've never heard of this particular lymphoma on your knee. Is that what happened to you?
Right. So it's non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. That's what it's called, non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. And it's dealing with the lymph nodes. But for me, it was in my shin bone. So instead of it being more like a cancer, I was told it was more like leukemia.
Oh, wow.
Right. So I went through, it was just a lot of pain in my leg, and I couldn't understand why. It got to the point where it wouldn't go numb. I would put ice on it, wouldn't go numb. I took a legit belt that you put around your waist, tried to cut the circulation off of it, wouldn't stop. I couldn't do anything. I went to the doctor, kept going back to the doctor. And on the flight line, it's a different culture, right? I worked on the flight line. I was a weapons loader at the time. And it's a different culture. You kind of grunt through the pain sometimes, But this pain was different. And it was definitely unbearable. Okay. So I kept going back to the doctor, and the doctor kept saying, it's tendonitis. Oh, it's bursitis. Oh, we'll give you a knee brace to hold up your patella. And I'm just like, man, like this is different, And so I did that for a little bit. And it was a whole year from January until I left in December. Okay. So I was going back to the doctor probably once a month. Right.
Yeah.
And then I got another doctor. Doctor came in, and he was like, let me do some scans on you. I said, okay. So he did some scans. He looked at my bones, both bones. He looked at my right leg and saw that it was all white, which is how a bone's supposed to be.
Yeah.
So he went left, and on the top of my shin bone of my left, it was black. And he said, that's cancer.
Wow.
So when he told me this, mind you, I'm 21 at the time. Okay. He told me this, and the original doctor was in the room, and he says, you may have to learn to live with one leg. Really? Right. That's exactly what the other doctor did. He said he just said, he was like, hey man, he's like, get out. He's like, just get out. So he got out, and he was like, listen, he's like, yes, that's worst case scenario. But if we attack this with the chemotherapy, we can get it taken care of and you'll be fine. I said, okay. So it was a blessing. It was a blessing in disguise, because I didn't grow up with my mom, right? I grew up with my dad. My dad raised me. Okay. From 3 to 17, I grew up with my dad. I met my mom when I was about 17-ish. And so my mom's in the Army. still. Okay. She's about to hit her 40 year, she's about to retire after 40 years. Okay. She's a cardiac physician assistant. Okay. So the doctor had said, he's like, hey, all right, so you got two options. You can either go to Walter Reed Medical Center, which is in Maryland, or you can go to Wilford Hall, which is in Texas. Okay. I said, well, my mom works at Walter Reed.
Wow.
So send me there. So he was like, really? He's like, can I talk to her? I was like, absolutely. So I call her, and she gave me something that I had never gotten ever in life. Okay. And it was a life check. So when I called my dad, right, my dad raised me, right? So when I call him, I tell him my dad's broken. He's like, man, like, how did this happen? You know, like, this is crazy. Like, and he was hurt because I'm his son, you know, like he was hurt.
Right.
When I called my mom, I said, Mom, like, I just got diagnosed with cancer. And she said, what are you going to do about it? Are you going to cry about it, or are you going to take care of it? Now, that's the same look I had. When she said that, it was like a life check, right? And now I look back and I needed that, because the thing is, a lot of times when you hear stuff like that, you expect sympathy and empathy. But when you don't get it, and when you get a life check, it makes you think differently. So she's like, let me talk to the doctor. I said, okay. I gave him the phone. He's like, all right, we have his doctor set up. And she was like, no, I got his doctors. Just send him. Get him clothes. He'll take a backpack. All I took, literally 2 days after I got diagnosed, I had a backpack on, and I got on a plane.
Wow.
Got to Maryland, and I started I did my first biopsy on Christmas Eve. Okay.
Yeah.
They went in, took some of my bone out of my shin. And then my second biopsy was on New Year's because they didn't get enough. I started chemotherapy immediately. I started 7 sessions of R-CHOP chemotherapy, and it was 3 weeks. They were spaced 3 weeks apart. And after that, 7 sessions, I was healed. Wow. Okay. I was in remission. Yeah. The beauty of that is how my whole life plans worked out, because so as a kid, I never wanted to be a bodybuilder. I didn't think about being a bodybuilder. I was a tech kid. Okay. So I built my first computer when I was 14. Okay. Yeah. I went to work at Intel since I was 14.
Wow.
So I always thought it was just so cool. Fast forward to me having cancer, right? I told you I used to load weapons on the jets. That has nothing to do with tech, right? But what I did do when I got to Maryland, they said, we don't have any jets. What do you want to do? I said, let me do something in computers. So I worked in the hospital, right? I would pull tickets and go fix computers all day. That was my job.
Wow.
I loved it, right? It built my resume in order for me to fast forward to now to work at Intel and design chips. So that's what I got my background from, my hands-on experience from the Air Force during my cancer time, rebuilt the relationship with my mom, all this stuff through turmoil, or what we think is turmoil. Yeah. But then there was always that big light at the end of the tunnel. Wow. And there we go.
So I guess you got into bodybuilding when you were deployed to Afghanistan, of all places, and you found someone there who was actually a very experienced bodybuilder, or someone who'd been training a very long time and sort of mentored you.
So what it was a younger guy who I was stationed with in Georgia. So we were stationed in Georgia. We deployed from Georgia to Afghanistan. Okay. And he had said he was a bigger guy, and he kept, he used to play football, and he was, like I said, he was a bigger guy. And I got there, and he said, I'm gonna show you how to lift. And I said, okay. Now the way my mind works is different. Okay, I have to break it down and make it make sense before I do anything. It has to make sense. So I said, we started lifting. He started teaching me, and when he's teaching me, he's like, it's like we're going through the motions. We're doing it, but we're not really. It doesn't make sense to me. I'm like, okay, why is it that my triceps hurt more than my chest when we're doing bench press? He's like, no, that's just how you do it. Okay, why does my biceps hurt more when I'm doing back? He's like, that's just how you do it. And I'm just like, but I feel like I can do it better. So what I did was I said, how about this? I'm gonna leave you. You do your thing. I'm gonna go and I'm gonna do my own workouts. And by the end of the deployment, we'll see who made, progress. Yeah. So I sat back and I made it make sense. I get there 175,
Mhm.
170, 175. I leave there 230, 235.
Wow.
Now, this wasn't the prettiest 235,
Still,
granted. It was
still.
just, but it was a matter of I had to make it make sense. I was like, okay, what is he eating? What do I need to eat? I was like, okay, protein, okay, cool. That builds muscle. All right, that makes sense. Creatine, okay, that holds water. Okay, cool. That makes sense. I can do, carbs. I need those, to fuel the glycogen. Okay, so this is me studying this stuff as I'm going. What is okay? Caffeine, okay, you need it for energy, but it's a vasoconstrictor. How do I open my blood vessels up better? Like little things like that, right?
Yeah.
To get a bigger pump. Like, what do I need? So after I get back and everybody's like, bro, and I'm like, yeah, like I think I figured it out.
Hmm.
So go ahead.
No, I said I had that all wrong. That guy wasn't your mentor at all. It sounds like.
No, he wasn't, and that was the thing. He was just a friend. He was just one of my friends. He was a really good friend who was bigger,
Right.
and so I was like, man, like it makes sense. So even now, I still use those little things, those little tweaks and stuff to make sure it makes sense because even when I train with people, nobody trains like I train. I don't believe. Like I literally train with people all the time, and I restructure the whole workout. And they're like, "Bro, like I didn't even thought of that." And I'm like, "I know nobody really thinks about that." But that goes back to me being a kid. When I was a kid, my dad would tell you, who was also on my team. It's only me, my dad, and my coach. That's my team. Okay. He'll tell you that when I was a kid, I used to break toys down. He'd buy me something brand new, and I would break it down. He used to get so mad. And he's like, what are you doing? I was like, I just want to know how it works. And I put it back together.
Yeah.
So once I do that with everything now. And that's what my job is at Intel. I break down and understand why this is out of alignment and I fix it. We recalibrate. So things like that. So it's all shaped a part of my life.
Okay. So that's when you started getting good gains and everything. How long? How did you go from there to actually starting to compete? Because that's a big jump that most people never make.
So when I was doing it, I fell in love with lifting. I'm not necessarily in love with competing. So this is the thing. I'm competitive, but I'm not competitive. Like I'm not a competitive person against other people. I compete with myself. That's what it sounds cliche, but it's real. Like I really just compete with myself. Like I see all over social media right now, everybody's trying to compare me and Chris. And I'm like, I'm a fan of Chris. Like I'm a big fan of Chris.
Yeah.
So it's honorable. It feels good, but it's just at the end of the day, it's like I'm not competing with Chris. Like me and Chris have two completely different structures, right? And we both bring two completely different things. And then the thing is, they're negating everybody else who's in the Olympia. There's so many Olympians. Like we're all Olympians. Like this is not just a Robert and Chris show. This is the Olympia. This is everybody. All these guys deserve respect. Like period. And I respect every one of these guys. Like every last one of them. They all earned their way there. They all deserve to be there. There's nobody more deserving than anybody on that stage. And it can go any way on that stage. So they're putting pressure on me. I'm like, yo, like relax. Like this is the Olympia. This can be anybody's game. At the end of the day, it's anybody's game. Right. But how I made the transition was I wasn't going to do it. I wasn't going to make the transition. I was literally in Korea, and my friend Mark says, he's like, Rob, man, you should compete. And I was like, bro, like I'm good. And he says, and this is I remember the first person he ever showed me was Steve Cook.
Huh. Wow.
Yeah. Steve Cook. And he said, look at him. And it was so because Steve Cook had his swag, like it was so fire. Yeah. And it was just a fire swag. And I thought it was so dope. And so I looked at it and I was like, oh, that's kind of cool, But I never had like a bodybuilder that I was like, oh my gosh, But then I said, I try it. So I looked at some stuff. I Googled some stuff, how to pose. I dieted on peanut butter and celery, thinking I knew what I was doing. I didn't know what I was doing because my genetics really carried me. I didn't really know my genetics and my work ethic. I didn't really know how to diet. I didn't know how to do this. I knew I needed protein, so I had peanut butter, I had eggs, and I had celery. That was my thing, right? And I just competed and I just tried it and I won. And I was like, and I look at my pictures now and I'm just like, oh my gosh, it was terrible. My old pictures. But you don't know it, while you're there. And so and then after I got the bug, it was like now you try to be better. And you just beat yourself over and over and over. That's it. That's really all this game is. And it's for me, it's a test of how long, Robert. I look at myself and I be like, Robert, how long can you do this? Like, how long can you eat the same thing over and over and keep doing it before you break? So that's my challenge to me. I'm like, how long can I keep doing this over and over before I break? That's it.
Yeah,
that's it.
I'm curious because like we talked about your back. Everyone's been talking about your back. Your radial bicep is just like a knockout shot. Was that something that grew easily for you, or did you get real analytical and technical and figure out ways to make it grow? Because conventional
I pull, I lift heavy. I know how to activate my back. That's the difference. I just know how to activate it, right? I know how to. That's the thing. I know how to use the muscle that I'm trying to build. Like I don't just pull weight. I use my back to pull the weight. Bench press, same thing. I don't push and use my arm. I use my chest to push the weight up.
Yeah.
So it's just, when you learn that stuff, then you understand angles and you hit different angles and stuff like that. But it can be complicated. But once you have a mind-muscle connection, it's not as complicated.
Yeah. I mean, obviously there's got to be some genetic component because
absolutely.
It's like a manta ray.
Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely genetics, It's just you develop it. Like my dad even said when I was little, he's like, you had abs when you were little. And I was like, really? He's like, yeah. He's like, you had abs, you had muscles when you were little. I was like, okay.
So you were gone 3 years. It's a very long. Like I forgot all about you. I'm sure a lot of people forgot all about you. And I mean, how did you know when it was time to come back? Did you look in the mirror one day and said, I'm ready to come back?
So what happened is, it was a long 3 years, right? This is when I separated from active duty because I was going through a time of, I love the military, but I just didn't, I was in a job that I felt like, because I was weapons loader, right? I can't do that in the civilian world.
Yeah.
And so I was looking at myself and I'm like, okay, I'm at 12 years in, okay? I can get out. And then again, it was another blessing. They had a job fair for Intel. There was a whole bunch of companies there, but Intel was there. So I went and redesigned my resume, rewrote my resume. I put in, they offered me 4 jobs.
Wow.
Okay. 4 different positions. I said, okay. So I got out. I got out of the military, out of active duty.
Yeah.
And I said, you know what? I don't want to just give up my time. So I'll just go reserves. And then if I go reserves, I can cross train. And if I cross train, I can cross train into something that can work. So now I do knowledge management where I'm calm in the communication squadron. So now I can use that information and build on my resume for Intel. And then now they work together. Okay. So I was like, okay, that makes sense. I told my dad was like, Robert, are you sure you want to get out? Are you sure? Are you sure? I'm like, Dad, look, I still get my medical benefits. I still get school benefits. I still get my housing benefits. I get everything. The only thing is I'm just not going to be working there every day. And I don't get a consistent military check. But I was like, but at Intel, it'll compensate all that. So we good. So he says, he's like, all right. Because my dad wasn't a big fan of job hopping. My dad was a court reporter for 30 years.
Yeah.
Okay. So he don't like the whole, jump.
I mean,
but I said,
that's the whole older, everyone in the old generation.
Exactly.
They get one job till they die, basically.
That's exactly. And I understand it. I get it. I understand it. And my thing is always making my dad proud. That's my thing, to make my dad proud. So, he was like, all right, Robert, you sound like you got it together. So I'm going to support it. So he supported it. I crossed over it, smooth transition. And then I had to, like I said, I knew I needed to put on weight. If I was going to compete, because I knew what happened. This is what happens. You compete in the beginning of the division, then the division evolves. Oh, yeah. And when the division evolves, it's like, now, you were the beginning, but can you keep up with the guys now? Right? So I had to be honest with myself, and I had to look at myself, my coach, AJ, and my dad. These two, they're like, they tell me, everybody's gonna tell me I look good, all the fans,
Sure.
But the ones who are real with you are my dad and my coach. Those are the ones who are real with me. So they say, you need to put on some weight. So after 2018, it was like, you got to put on some weight. You got to take some time off to put some weight on. I said, okay. So we did a bulking diet for 3 years, consistent, and it worked. I got a 267, held it for 2 years, about 2 years, and then we cut it down and see what we had underneath, and Texas showed what we had underneath.
Yeah. So was it hard for you watching, 3 years in that division? That was like a lifetime, because every year people left and new people came up, and you're watching all these new stars rise, and it must have been hard seeing, oh man, I wish I could compete with this Ruffin, this Bumstead, this Breon, but you were busy. How did you have the discipline to keep doing what you needed to do for 3 long years? That's a long time to stay away from the stage.
It wasn't hard for me, because then again, this is not my only thing I do.
True.
Right? I work a full-time job and I work a part-time job.
Yeah.
I like bodybuilding, right? It's fun. It's a hobby of mine, but it's not hard for me to stay away from it. I love going to the gym. I gotta stop going to the gym. The gym is the fun part, right? That's the fun part.
Yeah.
So it's not like I stopped going. I went to the gym every single day. Through COVID, I was in the gym. I have a friend who had a gym. He left it up. I went to his gym. So it was not like a stoppage. I don't, they compete. You compete when you're ready. I'm not in a rush to compete. I want to compete when I'm at my best. The last thing I want to do is step on stage and not ready. So I did that. It was no like, oh, I got to get on stage. No, there was none of that. I even told my coach, like, he was like, you ready? You ready to get back up? And I was like, when we had when I had the show planned in May, I was like, I got to go to tech school. And at first he's like, oh, you got to go. I was like, yeah. I was like, it's okay. We can just do the next show. Like, it's not that big of a deal. Like, like dieting is not, this is my lifestyle. This is a normal lifestyle for me. So it's not like this is like, oh, something out of the norm.
Right.
That's what I do. So I could get on a diet and cut and get ready for a show. It's not like, it's no mystique behind it, right? It's just, are you consistent? Can you be consistent? And then it becomes a game to me. I look in the mirror every morning. I see my progress pictures. See my coach. He's like, "Oh, you got it. Yeah, all right. Yeah, let's keep going." I'm like, okay, cool. Let's do it again. It's just repetitive,
Right. Yeah, Groundhog Day.
The hardest part. I'm not gonna lie. The hardest part is my sleep, because I do work 12-hour shifts. So I work 12-hour shifts overnight. I work 6 p.m. to 6 a.m.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So during prep, I only get 3 hours of sleep on my work days.
Wow.
Right.
Yikes.
So, and this is the thing, right? It's so funny. Because I did I did another interview yesterday, and he was like, people, and the person who interviewed me said, they're gonna think that you're lying. I'm like, why would I lie about that? Like, that is not something to brag about. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's not something I'm proud of. It's just the fact that that's the only way I'll be able to get everything in. Right. And I had to, again, make it make sense. Right. Yeah. So what I do is and this is how I do it. 6 p.m. I'm at work from 6 to 6, right?
Yep.
I sleep from 7 to 10. Now I stop eating at 2 a.m. in the morning. Okay. So from 2 a.m. to 10 a.m. I'm fasted. Right? So I can get up at 10 o'clock. I'll do my fasted cardio. I come back home. I eat by 12, right? My first meal at 12. Wait 2 hours, eat another meal by 2, wait 1 hour, okay? Yep. Go to the gym by 3, work out until 4:15, come back home, prep the rest of my meals for the day, shower, go to work, be there by 6. That's only on 3 days a week, 1 week, and then 4 days a week the next week. So I get to sleep in on my other days off.
Okay.
That makes sense. You know what I'm saying? Those are the days that we actually get my true weight. Because when I do sleep, when I sleep my full time, I probably drop about 5 pounds of sleep. When I'm sleeping only 2 or 3 hours, I only drop 2 pounds. Oh, wow. I know that when I do 35 minutes of cardio on the stairs, I drop 2 pounds. These are things that we know. Like, we've calculated all this stuff, and everything is consistent every single day. Never changes.
Hold on, Robert. Between meals 1 and 2, there's a 2-hour gap. Why can't you take a nap?
I mean, I could, but I could take a nap. I could take a nap. That I could. Yeah, I just don't though. I just don't. I just eat my meal. I just relax. I sit back, keep my feet up, relax, and let my food settle. But then there are gaps there where I could take a nap.
Yeah.
Even on my break at work, right? I could take a nap at work. But then again, it's one of those things where I could take a break, but am I tired at that point? Right? Because my mind is just running, so I can't really just shut my body down and just be like, okay, time to take a nap. I can't do that. So
you're one of those people that there are people that can function on a lot less sleep than other people. And you
right.
Sounds like you're one of those.
And that's the thing, right? For me, it's more so I do it knowing I'm going to get sleep on my days off.
Okay.
Right. So
you make it up. I got you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So like you said, people online, they're comparing you to Bumstead already. And why?
Right.
Because Bumstead,
we're tall.
You're both 6'1", you're both big dudes, beautiful shape, structure. You're right. It's a whole stage full of Olympians who all earned their way there.
Exactly.
But we're talking about guys who are 5'5", 5'6".
That's fine, but Terrence still got second. Breon got third. That's what I'm saying. Like everybody's dangerous. Everybody's dangerous. Yeah. There's nobody more dangerous than another. Like granted, obviously, okay, you got the king, Chris. Yeah. Chris the king. That's it. That's point blank. Period. Yeah. But you know what I mean. I can't just leapfrog over the guys that have already beaten me before. Terrence has beaten me before. Breon has beaten me before. Courage has beaten me before. Who else is on the stage? Everybody's beat me. All these guys have beat me before. So how can I be arrogant enough to say, "Oh, I'm better than them now"? Like, no. Like we're gonna have to see what happens on the stage. But everybody is an Olympian, and that means something. You know what I'm saying? That has a lot of weight.
Oh, absolutely. These are the best. You're up there with the
very best of the best.
Everybody up there is won shows. Everybody earned their right.
Absolutely.
Nobody got a special invite to that show.
Nope. And this Olympia is going to be a movie. I really believe it's going to be a movie. This is going to be a movie. This classic Olympia is going to be a movie. I really believe so.
Oh, it's going to be amazing. I'd love to see. I'd be happy for anybody that wins, whether it's Bumstead winning again, if Breon gets his title back.
Yeah, that's what it's so many lines, so many storylines. Terrence wants to move up. If Terrence moves up, he wins. You know what I mean? He's Mr. Olympia. Breon, he's fighting to get his mind is a big comeback. You got Chris, who was the reigning king. Like and then there could be somebody out of the blue. Yeah. Well,
that's Brian Jones. We haven't mentioned Brian Jones.
Brian Jones.
Yeah, came out of nowhere last
year. No, that's what I'm saying. It's anybody's game, and that's the thing. Like, you just got to bring your best, and that's why I don't focus on stuff like that. Like, I'm not here to be, I'm coming for so. No, I'm going there. I'm gonna do my best. That's all I can do. You know what I mean? I'm gonna do my best. After the show, I'm gonna spend time with my family because I'm from Orlando, so it's in my backyard.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm originally from Orlando, so I'm gonna go compete, spend time with the fam, come home, and get back to work. Go back to work like normal. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's it. What it is. That's it. It is what it is. That's just play the game.
I forgot to ask you for your monthly Air Force commitment. Do you have to go to Minnesota? You have to go to Minnesota or something?
Yeah, I fly to Minnesota once a month.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. Well, so 1 week in a month I fly to Minnesota, and do my duty there.
I'm sick. Are there no Air Force bases in Arizona?
There are, but the thing was, I cross-trained. So since I cross-trained, and I was stationed here, that's the reason I'm here actually, because I was stationed here for my last 5 years of the Air Force.
Okay.
I was stationed here, but when I got out, I tried to cross-train, and I couldn't cross-train here because they weren't taking any prior service that weren't COM. Gotcha. So I had to go to a base that was accepted as somebody who was fresh out of school, and Minnesota was the base that accepted me.
Okay, gotcha. All right, well, now we're back to Olympia. So here's two arguments I hear about. I'll be real with you. People, the knock on you years ago, it's still the knock on you is your upper body is better than your lower body. It's not a surprise. But I've heard people argue classic physique is not supposed to be about massive quads. That's what open bodybuilding is for. Classic is, a lot of people believe it's supposed to be the ideals of the 70s and 80s. The beauty.
It's the beauty of it.
These guys like Arnold, Serge Nubret, Robbie, they didn't have massive quads. Everything flowed together.
Right. But
other people say, well, Bumstead's the standard bearer. He's Mr. Olympia twice now, classic physique Olympia. He's got big legs. So what do you do as a judge, or what do you do as a fan? Where do you stand on that whole
so
argument?
you have to be a realist, right? Like, so, and this is our thing, right? I look at it like you can look and say, I want to have you're right. Back in the day, they didn't have the sweeping quads, they didn't have stuff like that.
Right.
But this is a different generation. This is a different type of classic. And I believe the classic is more so I look at it, the way I look at it, I feel like I have a classic physique, right? I feel like I'm looking at my lines, right?
Yeah.
How pretty my lines are. I believe it's about how pretty it is.
Yeah.
Right. I look at Chris is powerful. So when I compare our physiques, I can't, because I look at mine and I'm like, mine's pretty, his is powerful. Right. When I say powerful, when I look at how he does his front double bicep, right? It's like it screams power, which is dope. Like, it looks amazing. Yeah. Right. But when I do mine, it's more like a beauty. You know what I mean? Like, it flows. His is like boom. And I'm like, oh my gosh, it's like, bro, it's a knockout. Yeah. Right. But mine's more flow. So I feel like mine's more artsy and his is more powerful. So it's like, it's apples and oranges to me, right? Yeah, he has the sweeping quads, the crazy quads. Like, his quads are nuts. Yeah. But I feel like the way my body flows is a little bit different. I have a different flow. So I don't know. Like, and that's why I say, the only thing you do is bring your best. Right. And I believe that when the judges see, I think it always goes to beating your last display. And when these judges see me now, it'll be a shock and awe, because they're like, wow, I remember him, but I don't remember him like this.
Well, I'm gonna end it. I'm gonna end the interview right now. We got more to talk about. I want to talk to you closer to the show. So guys, he can't hear me, but thank you, Robert, for the interview. Congratulations on the win when you hear this. And thanks everyone for watching Ronline Report. Robert Timms, you'll be seeing him at the Olympia in just a few weeks. See how he does. I'm very excited, and congratulations on his comeback.